All right, well, let's go. It's Nebraska Ed Chat time. It's 8 o'clock. It says so on Brent's clock. Watch, or not watch. That wasn't a watch. It was his phone. All right, train wreck already. Let's go. Uh, we are pleased to have the second ever Nebraska Ed Chat live show. We are also on Twitter, hashtag NEBEdChat. The first thing that we need to do, whether you're here or on Twitter, is to introduce yourself. So my name is Josh Allen. I am the Instructional Tech Facilitator for Papillion La Vista Schools. I am President-elect of NEDA, which we will get to here shortly. And I am so excited to have the guests in the room tonight. Steven, since you were the last one to show up, go ahead and lead us off.
Hey, thanks for throwing me out in the bus, or
Hey,
throwing me
no
in the
problem, buddy.
bus. I appreciate it. Hey, my name is Steven Sauter, 612 Tech Integration Media Specialist for York Public Schools in York, Nebraska, and just very happy to be a part of this.
Mickey?
I am Mickey Mueller. I'm the Educational Technology Facilitator for Norfolk Public Schools in Norfolk, Nebraska.
Heather?
I'm Heather Callahan, and I am the K-12 Tech Integrationist for Northwest Public Schools, and I am also a NEDA board member.
Sweet. Haley?
I'm the newbie, so Haley Messersmith. I am the middle school science teacher at COZAD, and first year NEDA attendee this year.
Nice. Last, certainly not least, Mr. Catlett.
Hi, everybody. Brent here from Bellevue Public Schools, and excited to be here hanging out with all of you and tweeting that as well.
All right, so how this is going to work is we are going to have a question that we're going to pose to the panel here and do a little discussion. I need to give a special shout out to Cynthia Stogdill. She is our official greeter for NEB EdChat. And she is also, I think, if I remember correctly from our direct messages today, going to be copying and pasting our questions into the Twitter chat. So we will be discussing the same questions that you're discussing on Twitter, and we will hopefully be bringing your information back into our panel discussion here as we go through it. What's really cool to see, just as I'm watching the hashtag now, you have Christina Peters, who's a brand new board member this year, who's joining us. Greg Robke, who is president of NEDA, joining us. Patty Wolf, who's a new board member. I think that's all I saw, top of my head. So a lot of NEDA knowledge in the room, whether it's here or on Twitter tonight. So we are going to get started. Brent, let's go ahead and start with you. What brought you back to NEDA? And for those of you that are either on Twitter or, in Haley's case here with us, why did you come to NEDA for the first time? What is it about NEDA that, brings you back or you wanted to get there for?
Yeah, I've been coming, Josh, for 16 years, and that's a long time, but every year I've enjoyed it, and I think it's just gotten better and better every year. I love to come. I think it's changed for me, though, in the last several years because of Twitter. Knowing all of you guys and getting to meet you via Twitter maybe before even the conference takes place. And now so many of those great relationships I have with so many great people, it's just really cool to connect with all those people and really enjoyed serving on the board here this last year. And so, yeah, it's just a blast to be a part of and, get involved with presenting sometimes. And I've co-presented with others from other districts and colleagues in my district, and so it's just, I don't know, I love it. I mean, I love technology. Obviously, it's a technology conference, so it's fun to kind of ramp up on the latest and greatest, and just spend time, like I said, connecting with other educators from around the area.
Haley, as a newbie, what drew you to NEDA, or did Patty just make you go?
No, she didn't make me go. I was lucky to get chosen. I think one of the best things about our school is, Patty and Dave Everton are very involved in the technology portion of it for us. And I think for me, I saw so much of what other COZED teachers were doing because of attending NEDA in the past. So for me, being a first-year teacher, I wanted to see what it was all about. I wanted to see, things that other teachers were doing. I am young, so I should have some technology ins, but there's so many things that I realized, I could incorporate into my classroom, or, things that other teachers are doing that I had no idea was even out there.
Absolutely. Heather?
I was trying to think while you were talking. Brent said he'd been coming for 16 years, and I think I'm just a couple years behind that. And I would have to agree with pretty much everything that he said as well. It's just the connections and the topics, everything is constantly changing. And so you just go to a place where everybody's enthusiastic and passionate and wanting to learn. And the other thing that I think is just great is being able, the amount of information you gain and learn, just not even when you're outside of a session conversing with someone before you go into one. Afterwards, just the conversations continue to go. And if you watch even like the Twitter feed following the conference for days, there's constantly people saying things like, hey, I went back and tried this in my classroom, and thanks so-and-so for your session. I tried this in my classroom, and I was able to use it. So it's just neat to see those kinds of things and how quickly that stuff can be implemented when you get back.
Mickey, what about you?
Well, I'll beat both Brent and Heather. I've been attending NETA since 1997, so that's... I told you if you do that, I will just keep talking. So that's 18 years. So Haley, that's probably longer than you've been alive. But anyway, I've been going since 1996. I went and looked back. The first time I presented at NETA was the year later, 1997. I've presented pretty regularly off and on since then. This year I presented twice, once with Shelley twice with Shelley Mowinkle, because we got to do a repeat performance from our session for this year. But I love NETA. It gets me supercharged for finishing out the school year. I get great ideas. Like Heather said, now that I'm on Twitter and attending NETA, I get to meet those people face to face. I love not only attending the sessions, but just the people that you see in the hallway that you have conversations with, or the night before some of us sat down and had a great conversation. So just the learning, the connections that go on, that's what makes me keep coming back for more.
Stephen, what about you?
Well, I'm going to take the time here. Since I was thrown under the bus in that first minute, I think it's now my turn to throw somebody else. Hey, Mickey, 1996 or 7?
Yes.
Yeah? All right.
That's when I graduated high school, by the way.
Stop it!
I was still in high school, Mickey. Let you know. Sorry. Hey, I've been going, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years now. And I think the big thing, just like everyone else, for me is the connections. I've been very lucky to meet a lot of very interesting, challenging, motivating, inspirational people on Twitter, and then actually to go spend 2 full days of just having conversations and arguments or whatever it may be, just great discussions about, maybe where our school or where the state should be heading and the different types of things that we should be doing. It's so powerful. In fact, just listening to Dean and Angela totally changed my entire presentation, and I just think it's so powerful, and it'd be great if every educator in the state would have the opportunity to attend NETA. And for me, I just love going back, have that motivation, that inspiration to kind of get me going and get us through the summer and get us fired up for next year.
Since I am now officially the grandma of this group, I probably will have to sign off here in about 10 minutes so I can go to bed.
Yeah.
Oh, good times.
Wow.
Anyway, let's move on quickly to something that is definitely we're going to build Mickey back up here. What types or topics of sessions do you seek out at NETA? Like, are there specific tools that you went for this year? Are there specific types of sessions that you want to go see, whether it be Keynote or whatever? We're gonna start with we'll start with Haley this time. Haley, what are some either tools or sessions that you went to this year?
I think a couple of the most interesting ones that I went to was talking about flipping your classroom and how much that can really reach students in a different way. It really lets them kind of take control of some of their own learning. There were a couple different ones that I saw, and I know there's a few people here at COZAD that are actually doing it, but it was unique to see different perspective One specific session that I went to, and I'm trying to get his name really quick. He was amazing. He was from Jeffrey Bernadette. Does that sound right? Bernadt.
I bet Brett knows that guy.
Yeah, it's Jeff Bernat. Yep.
Okay, he was amazing, and just had such an awesome session for me. I walked away from that one and I went, holy cow, this guy is awesome. How can I use some of what he's doing in his classroom in mine? He also had his students talking about how they appreciated being in control of their learning. They were getting to choose, how they were learning these topics just by, technology that he was presenting them with. And he also said it gave him the chance to spend more one-on-one time with them, which that was awesome.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Haley, but I see that Jeff Fortenberry has just made an appearance in NebEd Chat.
I actually knew that this they're doing an app contest. Lynn Herr, who does our contest for NETA, they had actually contacted her and was mentioning that there is an app. I forget who's sponsoring it now. I did write it down. They're actually looking for judges, I think, from the 1st and 3rd congressional districts, and so they had called today, or had talked to Lynn about it, and she mentioned that there's going to be a lot of great Nebraska educators. So that is why Representative Fortenberry joined our chat tonight, and because we're super cool.
Well, obviously. And by the way, I may be the oldest person in this hangout, but I will have you know that Patty Wolf from COZAD has said that she has been attending NETA since before it was called NETA. So.
That's impressive, Patty.
Okay. So anyway, so as board members, we don't necessarily get to attend as many sessions as I want. But Heather, are there certain ones that you went to? I know that you presented at least once, if not a couple times. But what were some things that you sought out this year?
Probably some of the digital citizenship stuff. When I had a chance, we had I'm gonna drop the name here. Help me out. Her name's on the tip of my tongue. The lawyer that was out. Karen Hawsey. I apologize. That was one. That was one that I knew a couple people from our district went to and had good reviews. I just think digital citizenship is something that I promote as a district, not something that's taught in isolation. And so that was something that I felt was good to always keep up on. I know my resources there, but you can never hear enough of that information. I can speak for Brent here. I kind of like to go hear different Google tools and then the newest and the greatest that's coming from Google and their workflow. So that's probably something else that I like to attend and hear about.
Mickey, did you get to any sessions?
Yeah, I did a few, and I suppose the sessions that I like to go to would be anything where I think I can get a free tool. Obviously, that's one of my big passions. And any session that sounds like I can get something that I can take back to my district and use the next week. Those are the sessions that I like to go to. I also, in the last couple of years, have really really enjoyed attending the conversation strands sessions, some of which have been led by our very own esteemed Coach Sauter, and those are not typically sessions that I would go to, but the ones at NETA have been really well run, so I have enjoyed those sessions as well.
Before I let Sauter talk, I was going to mention that Christina Peters did bring up conversation strands as well, which is something that's near and dear to my heart, and Christina's going to be carrying that on when we move downtown next year, but we'll talk about that later. So. Stephen, what you got for us?
I'd say for me, the biggest thing, in the last couple of years, I've been really attending a lot of the conversation strands. When I get my NETA pamphlet, magazine, agenda, schedule, whatever, you know, that's the first strand that I go to is conversation strand. Just see the topics, and mainly for me, I feel like in those conversation strands, I can, whatever the topic may be, I can ask questions, and I can really turn it into getting information for myself and make it really more personal. And that's not offensive to any other type of sessions. That's just, you know, how NETA works for me. Now, I did go to, I sat in to Mickey's, and of course, if you ever want, hey, I need a couple tools, you know, for my classroom, you sit in Mickey's, you're going to come away with 45 of them. In fact, today I was talking with a couple staff members from York, which, you know, I'm very lucky to where a lot of staff members here, they follow on Twitter and those type of things, and so she brought up a couple good ones today. And she's like, yeah, I think Mickey Mueller shared this one at NETA, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm just very lucky to where we have so many people engaged, you know, doing other types of sessions. And then at the end, when we all get together and kind of talk about, hey, well, what'd you like or what'd you get, we have a wide variety of people that go to this type of session, you know, kind of a sit and get type of a session, conversation, and those type of things. And so to me, it's about the conversation strand, but then also at the end, listening to staff members that I'm lucky to work with and what they got from NETA.
And that's a great point about the Twitter stream and sharing online. We actually had an elementary meeting today, and I know one of our media specialists, Liz Von Nagy, is in the chat, and they were talking about, and Darcy Lindgren, who's a board member or secretary now, also just brought that up, is just being able to see what, you know, people are sharing, and then you don't have to necessarily be in that session, which I think is awesome. And that really the last couple of years, that's been huge growth, and it's just getting better every year.
Well, and I'll go off of that, Josh. When you decided to have the two keynotes, you know, the keynote choice on Friday, a lot of years it's been hard to choose. Yeah. And again, this year it was. And I went to Erin's because I follow Erin on Twitter, and I thought she'd have a lot of good information to share. Knowing that I could follow along on Twitter and learn a lot from Dean's session as well.
Absolutely. Brent, you have anything to add?
You know, like it's kind of been mentioned, but yeah, for me, I agree kind of with Stephen about this year's keynotes with Sharesky. I really enjoyed, and that really inspired me on a lot of different levels. So that was kind of like worth the money for me, you know. So it's NETA, and a lot of people are chiming in on Twitter about, you know, the Lenny Vermaas is tweeting, you know, that always has great keynotes at NETA, and I would totally agree. I know that, you know, the board does a good job of trying to find the best of the best, and that inspiration is so fun. And yeah, but as a board member, you're kind of doing a lot of other things, so you're not necessarily involved in attending sessions. So this year I didn't attend as many. I did lead a conversation strand, and I would say that's my favorite area.
And one thing, Jeff Burnett, who Haley mentioned earlier, and he was the NETA Teaching with Technology winner. Is that what it's called? Teaching Excellence in Teaching with Technology.
Yeah.
He just chimed in, you know, just enjoyed getting out of his comfort zone a little bit and finding sessions that aren't necessarily, you know, I ran into that before I was on the board. I would go to these sessions that I knew stuff about, and then I wouldn't learn anything. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to, you know, get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You guys touched on it, but what are some of the takeaways that you had, and it's been brought up in the chat too, what are some takeaways that you had from the keynote speakers? Heather, go ahead.
I guess I would just, I'm trying to think of what to pinpoint. Like Brent said, it's just kind of motivational and just kind of, it's a good time of year in the spring when things get deep and things get difficult. It gives you just that little push of a reminder that, you know, we're in this together and we're in this for the kids. Yeah. And, you know, I guess joy sticks in my mind, you know, keeping the kids excited, and they're the genius. Those are just some little reminders that stick out in my head, and it's nice to come away with just those simple words, because you can put those words in the back of your head and just think, okay, this is what's on my mind today. And you know, not that we don't always have those things in the back of our mind, you know, and that's one of the things I was talking to somebody else, you know, we were talking about the Teach Like a Pirate book too, and just the different things, those types of things that are motivational and just kind of give you that push. And it's not anything that you probably don't know. It's just that just like kids need to hear things again and again. Sometimes as adults, we just need that extra push to do that too. And so that's probably what I like about the keynotes. And being in April, right towards the kind of the end of the year when things are pretty deep and difficult, it just gives you that encouragement that you can get through it and that it's all about the kids.
Absolutely. Mickey?
You know, I think different keynoters give you different impressions every year, and I'm going to say this just because I'm being honest. For me, I didn't particularly care for Angela's keynote on Thursday, and I know I'm going to be in the minority on this, and that's fine, but that's just me. And Erin's keynote on Friday I thought was great. She gave lots of practical uses for how she's using technology with her students. I liked it because she personalized it, and she talked about her son and how he's using technology and how he's sharing what he's building and publishing and getting him started at that young age. But there's always something. And it wasn't that I didn't like Angela's speech altogether. I thought there were good messages to it, and obviously I always enjoy when they're talking about the students and how you're bringing, you know, student voice is so important, and I think that's a big thing, and that's one takeaway that I did take from Angela's. But I think back to some of the other keynotes that we've had in the past, and there's been years when I've just been wowed by the keynotes. And next year, I'm really looking forward to Adam Bellows. I've watched his ISTE closing keynote multiple times and really enjoyed that. So, you know, I think for different people, you take away different things. And some years I enjoy every keynote that's there, and some years not. And that's fine. If I don't go to NITA for the keynote, I go for the connections. So one bad keynote is not going to drive me away, unfortunately.
That wasn't even a joke. That was.
I know, it wasn't. I meant that to be honest and heartfelt.
I want to. I noticed Darcy Lindgren made a comment in here, and this kind of sticks out to me too. She said something about it was low tech, but just the reminder to get behind your computer and greet students at the door. And the only reason I bring that up is because a teacher that we had that attended NITA, that was one thing in a conversation I had when we got back to school that she said that stuck in her mind. She says, I just need to be a little better in the morning when I'm behind there trying to get attendance taken and doing stuff that takes a computer, but just to get away from it and stand at the door and be better at that and more consistent at that. So I just thought, you know, some of those, I go back to those reminders, but it was interesting that she posted that on Twitter, but that was a conversation that I had with a teacher that attended NITA as well.
I kind of wanted to add to that, if that's okay. One of my favorite things that Dean said in Friday's keynote, he said, adults need to have fun so children want to grow up. Mm-hmm. And I remember him saying that and went, holy cow, that's so right. You know, how often are we, you know, in a classroom with the kids just drilling the content, and they're sitting there going, okay, hold on, wait, what? So, I don't know, that was one of the things that really inspired me. And then also going off what Heather said, I went to Sam Stecker and Mark Johnson do the Mission Monday little quote talking about kind of, again, just, you know, getting in the hallway, making a difference, making contact with those students. And so for me, also right at the end of the year, you know, for a first-year teacher, I was like, whew, I need some extra, you know, oomph to get me through. And I just think I took so much away from that, you know, positivity, you know, keep showing the kids that this is fun and learning is fun, and there's ways we can make it fun.
Absolutely. Stephen?
You know, I would agree with a lot of what people were saying. You know, I think the big thing for me is I always like to have fun, and whether it's joking around or, you know, giving people a hard time or, you know, playing music, those type of things. And Dean was just kind of, I don't know, just a little bit of affirmation, I guess. Say, hey, it's okay to have fun in school, and I guess that just kind of, that felt really good, and really enjoyed his, you know, just all of his energy and willing to, you know, do crazy things, because I think that just gets people to relax and enjoy and learn. I also enjoyed how he said, connect with 2 or more people. Before you leave this conference, your challenge has got to be, you got to meet 2 new people, because sometimes down the road you may need them. And I thought that was very powerful, because, you know, to a certain extent I'd say, oh, if you're connected, that means you're only on Twitter. And that's not necessarily the case, which kind of leads into maybe one of the biggest things I came away with was Beth Still had a conversation strand about being connected. And there was a gentleman that was in kind of our little group off to the side. I can't think of his name. It's like Wayne is what I want to say. I'm not for sure, but this gentleman had a smartphone. He sent 2 text messages in like 3 months, and he returned his smartphone. And he's like, I just don't get it. I don't use it. And this Twitter thing, I was just curious to see what it's about. And he goes, it's just not me. And we got to talking about, what's it mean to be connected and all these different things. And he goes, my connections are with people that are around me, across the hall, those type of things. And I guess maybe just a epiphany, if you will, was, it really doesn't matter if you're connected on Twitter. I think it helps. I think you can make more connections. But this guy, at the end of the day, you need to be connected with people that make you better, whether it's face-to-face only, or whatever it may be, because those people might be connected on Twitter that make them better, which in turn can make you better. So I think that's the big thing for me, was surround yourself, whether it's through Twitter, across the hall, maybe a combination of both, but be connected with people that make you better.
Absolutely. Brent, anything to add to the
Nicely done, Stephen. Very nicely done. Yeah, no, for me, I think, I mentioned I really enjoyed Shrevsky's earlier, and just I said this at the board meeting after the meeting, or after the conference deal, as we debrief, that I think someone like him can do different presentations and always is going to bring something new to the table, because he's a learner and he's constantly soaking things up, and gets a new video that's inspiring, or gets this or that. And I love to follow him on Twitter for that reason, because he finds these things, or he's connected to other people that allow that to happen. So I honestly, I know this won't happen, but I could see him next year again there, and the following year, and I think he'd bring a different message every time, because it would be different things, whereas not every keynote can do that. They kind of bottle up a speech and they have that. So from that standpoint, as a speaker and presenter myself, I really respect that in the realm of what he did. So that'd be kind of my take in the realm of keynotes.
All right, great points. You guys are rocking this. This is wonderful. No big deal. We got this all figured out. Hey, gonna touch on this a little bit. Moving to presenters' presentations. For those of you that are on Twitter, posting on Twitter, just put in there presenters' presentations that you took the most away from. Those of you that are in the panel discussion here, one presentation, one person that most stands out in your mind, and if you've already discussed it, you don't have to redo it. You cannot mention anyone that's already in the panel, because we don't want any butt kissing. Got it? Because everyone would say Mickey Bueller, and then we'd have to, Oh my! I seriously thought I was at home and my doorbell just rang.
Got him on
that one. Mickey, presenter extraordinaire.
Well, I can't. Yeah, thank you for that.
We have a new rule that we'll have for next year. Go ahead.
I can't say Brent's session, because he's in the group tonight. So the best session that I went to that was outside this group of educators was Mr. Aaron Sabota from Kearney Public Schools. He's a learning
one.
Well, but it wasn't. So hold on there, Josh. Hold on. I am not getting the Kool-Aid out yet. That's later.
Brent's got it.
Aaron is a learning coach at Kearney Public Schools, and he's somebody that I've connected with on Twitter because Kearney rolled out Chromebooks. We're doing the same, about the same size school and that kind of stuff. So I started following Aaron on Twitter. He has done some amazing training with his staff to get them ready for these Chromebooks. And his session, I just loved the way he structured it and set it up. And he actually demoed the tools that he was talking about. So he did, and I know he talked about Kahoot. I think he had us play a Kahoot, and I think he talked about Socrative, and just a bunch of tools that he had shared with his teachers, but he actually used them in his presentation. It was just masterfully put together, very, very excellent presentation. So if you get a chance to see Aaron Sabota, or follow him on Twitter, or catch him next year at NETA, well worth your while.
Steven, what about you?
I think I mentioned it earlier at Beth Still's conversation stream. Yep. About being connected. For me, the biggest takeaway was, again, doesn't have to be on Twitter. Just make connections with people that are going to challenge you and make you better. made you a better educator. Best conversation. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but some of her questions that she threw out there, I mean, it really made you sit and think and like, man, I could really see it going either way. Those type of things. You know, I'd provide an example, but I'd probably screw it up. So I'm not gonna go there. But it was very powerful for me.
I mean, we've tried to get Beth for a couple of years, and this is the first year we've got her in to do the conversation strand. So I was very grateful that we got her there. Brent, what about you?
You know, I presented once in a conversation. Really didn't attend a whole lot. So if I'd like to just go off the track a hair, and I had a wonderful conversation with Dave Evertson. And
you took mine. You took mine, Brent. You took mine.
Heather was there, and Josh, you came in a little later. But it was the evening after Thursday evening, and we were all at the hotel hanging out, and that was absolutely my favorite part. One of my favorite parts, and Shresky's keynote being probably right up there with it as well. But just really enjoyed that conversation with you guys and Dave, and it's just really challenged me. I blogged about it, and Dave's blogged about it, and it's just been fun to kind of continue to think about those challenges and things we talked about in the realm of educational technology. So for me, it was those kinds of moments. I had another wonderful conversation with Cynthia Stogdale in the hallway, and you know, just people. Those were my sessions, if you will. So in the things in the realm of presentations and things. So I didn't go to too many formal ones because of the board obligations, but those other informal conversations I really enjoyed.
Haley, what about you? You're muted, by the way. There you go.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry. So I was like the nerdy Nita person who walked away from there saying, I loved every single session that I went to. I took something away from every single session. And Dave and Patty had us reflect on our favorite sessions when we got back. And I was actually worried that my entire school was going to say, what the heck is this girl doing, because she wrote 2 pages in the reflections.
She talks a lot.
So, yeah. I think a couple, I mean, I already said Jeffries was awesome. I really enjoyed the keynote Friday morning that Dean did. The other one that I really wanted to say I think was very impacting was Eric Jones, and he was the Nebraska State Patrolman.
Yep.
The one that it was just so crazy to me. You know, we do digital citizenship with our middle schoolers, and it was crazy the information that he was putting out there and showing us just statistics and telling us, you know, these things, Kik Messenger, Instagram, you know, Skype, even, you know, Twitter, Vine, things like that, that if our students aren't aware of those situations, you know, they can really either be used, you know, incorrectly, or, you know, you want to bring awareness to the fact you don't want to take technology out of their hands, but you want to make them aware of situations that they could encounter or things that they could come across. And I think walking away from that session, I talked to our digital citizenship teacher, and I said, holy cow, you know, I overheard a conversation between our middle school kids about, you know, a chat site that they were on, and this is one of the chat sites that he brought up in his presentation. And I just went, holy cow, this is how important digital citizenship is to these kids at this age.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Heather, do you have anything to add to or another one since Brent stole yours?
No, I just think it's no fault of anybody's, but I think as board members we kind of do. We just kind of find our own sessions, or, you know, you sneak in. I was doing some room counts, so you sneak in and get bits and pieces from different things. You know, I snuck in, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I snuck into Mickey and Shelley's, you know, and in my head I just think, okay, I know they're, you know, I peep in, hear some good stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's definitely, you know, I take a mental note and say that's the one I need to follow up on, or I need to look at those resources when I get a chance. But as board members, you kind of carry on those conversations with people and gather as many resources and try to consume as much as you can. But I definitely agree with Brent. Some of the best things are the conversations you have with others, and it's just following up on certain things because you just get those great thoughts in your head.
I went back in my Twitter archives and I did find Aaron's resources for his workshops that he did at NITA, so I tweeted that out. And I will agree too. I did not actually run into Dave Evertson at NITA, but anytime that man talks, I listen with everything I have. I swear to God, if that man was a preacher in a church, I would sign up and I would go. He is awesome.
You know what's the craziest thing? I mean, his past students say he was an amazing teacher too. So, I mean, I feel lucky to have, both him and Patty as a resource for us. It's crazy, and our school is doing amazing things because of them.
We could almost call him the Rev, but we already know somebody that's a Rev, don't we?
Right. Thank you very much. Got a couple weddings coming up the next few weeks. Souter.
We'll get Brent to be the associate pastor at the Church of Evertson.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. Hashtag that right now.
Church of Evertson. Oh.
I got to direct this little Google Hangout we got going on, but yeah, we'll hashtag that one. So stepping away from NITA 14 just a little bit, one of the things that NITA wants to do is kind of grow our membership and not just make it about the spring conference, and now we've added a fall conference as well, but what are ideas that either you guys in the chat or here in the panel, what are some things, resources, tools that we can provide as an organization, outside of those 2 or 3 times a year? Sauter, do you want to start us off?
Put me on the spot, huh? Sheesh.
You can pass for now if you want.
Can I pass?
Yeah. Catlett. This is a tough question, I will say.
Why
we're asking. Why we have to ask people.
Do we have to take? Do you want me to raise my hand?
Yes, go, Heather.
Brent will pass the board.
As I was sitting here looking ahead at these questions, thinking, okay, if Josh puts me on the spot, what am I going to say? But in the back of my head, I'm like, Mickey will cover me because she's going to cover the silence. But I guess one of the things outside the conference, I think we're on the right track here when you do things like these live hangouts and things like that, because we're having these conversations for people to hear, but yet on Twitter we're able to look at what the questions are or what the comments are, so we can kind of address those. So I think I know we have lots of resources out there, but this, being part of NebEd Chat and being there to answer these questions and provide resources, I think is a step in the right direction. I don't know. Those of you out on Twitter, you can correct me if I'm wrong or add more information, but I definitely, when Josh brought this to my attention that we were going to have this follow-up and be able to do this, I think it's just one more way to connect with the attendees and the members and show our support and reach out for suggestions.
I'm going to add to Heather. I think she's exactly right. I think through the Nebraska Ed Chat, through a Google Hangout, has provided so many avenues for the state to get connected. Growing up in western Nebraska, honestly, everything is down east. Everything is, state track, state basketball, football, everything, and it probably should be, just because that's where the most population is. And I think, to me, the biggest challenge is, how do you get people? When I say western Nebraska, I'm not talking about Kearney. I'm talking about people from Scottsbluff and Gearing and those type of places out west. How do we get them more involved? And I think the ultimate challenge, it's the travel, it's the distance, that they got to make that trip. And I think having the NITA the fall NITA conference helps a little bit, but it's a challenge. And how do you do that? I still think, what Heather's saying, I would agree with her that, we got to really encourage participation in Nebraska Ed Chat, maybe a Google Hangout, those type of things, to really get them connected to where maybe that would provide a little bit more motivation. Not that they're not motivated, I don't know, but somehow to combine the state into a central location if possible, somehow, some way. I don't know. That's just geographic challenges.
I'm liking the idea of a bus tour that's been thrown out here on Twitter. I think that would rock and would be a lot of fun. I think the fall NITA conference, although I did not attend this last year, I think that's a good start, but you're right, Kearney is not western Nebraska. And I understand that there are challenges in finding an event space for that kind of a thing in western Nebraska, but Otis Pierce is saying, maybe have something, mini NETA sessions hosted at ESUs by NETA board members, which would be an idea. I think that western Nebraska wants this kind of training, needs this kind of training. We just got to figure out a way that we can get it out there, or get them to come, a little farther, which I know is hard. My first job was in Ainsworth, and it was hard to go all the way to Omaha for NETA because you basically took 2 days of travel, and Ainsworth is not by far, the farthest the place that people come from. But so that's a good start. As far as I love this Google Hangout idea. Perhaps we could do something with Google Communities. I'm starting to pour the Kool-Aid now. So I think there's other options there too.
I want to touch on a couple things. The first one being the Kearney Fall Conference. We tried to get it farther west, and there's just not a location big enough for the price that we'd have to pay, and so that's really a struggle. What was the other thing? The live streaming. Otis brought up live streaming. That idea has been kicked around. We run into contractual issues with that as well, so that's something else to think about. As far as the ESU tours, doesn't ESU do that with their NCSA boot camp every year or so? I mean, I think some of that stuff, and I'm not trying to say no, these aren't going to work. And Lynn Hurd just posted right on cue, Lynn, great job. The admin tech boot camps they do through ESU and NCSA, and she mentioned a possible expansion, and I know Jackie Ediger, who's another board member, has been working with her. So I think that in some aspects, I think those sometimes get done. But I think there's definitely ways to change it. Go ahead, Mick.
Jim Homan has a bus driver's license and has offered to drive the NETA bus. Just saying.
Nice.
That would be awesome.
Perfect. And Guy training throughout there too about pre-service teachers. He's from UNL, and that's another element of that certainly could be looked into, and it's been kind of mentioned in the Twitter feed about maybe giving them cheaper rates and all that sort of stuff.
They do get cheaper rates.
Right. Yeah.
No, they do.
I just saw another question on that. I thought we did.
Yeah, I believe so.
But it just seems as if it's kind of the message, Josh, just getting it out there and getting to people and reaching people, and because I think of Pow Pow and the Chatham folks, they travel, they come the whole way. I mean, people do it. Cambridge had their entire district there this year, and how awesome was that, and so definitely. It's possible. Just got to keep working and keep sharing the message.
I know we've got reference to the contest later on here as one of our questions, but I also think I think sometimes they look at cost being an issue too out west, which would make sense with the bus, but just pushing the contests even more because those contest winners get that sub coverage and that conference the conference paid for. So just pushing that, we were looking at ways to encourage more participation in contests, and obviously we don't want all Western Nebraska entering in the contest, and that's it. But that would just help increase that, just getting the contest participation up and encouraging that, because that is one way to reduce the cost.
Someone, I don't remember where I was having this discussion. It was somewhere on Twitter, and maybe Heather, you were there, but we even talked about. ESU's coordinating a bus for their Western Nebraska folks to all ride in on it. And I know Jim York, I'm not sure if he's still in the chat. He was going to bounce in and out. He's at Thedford, and he said, one problem they run into is their staff is so small that to get a discount to go to NETA, it takes up 75% of their staff. Or it was a ridiculous number. That seems like a little much, but it's harder when you have a smaller school to be able to get a discount on registration. So it's definitely a problem that we continue to look at and we want to encourage. Always feel free to tweet out some more ideas. So
I would like to apologize to Katie Berger, who is trying to grade research papers. She says our Google Hangout is too entertaining, and she's having a problem grading her papers. So sorry, Katie.
It's tough. We're fun people.
Another great York Duke right there.
Hashtag York Dukes.
Yep.
It took a while to get York Dukes in there. Really?
It did. You know, really, I didn't throw a shameless plug out there early. You know, like sometimes you hear what an Ed Camp something like.
Ed Camp Omaha.
March.
March 21st, 2015. Put it on your calendars. At the brand new Community Engagement Center on the beautiful campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha.
This commercial brought to you by Josh Allen.
All right, we need to move on. Speaking of contests, what can NETA do to encourage more student and teacher participation in contests? Anyone want to start? I don't want to pick on anybody.
I think Haley should go.
Because I'm the new person.
But I mean, as a new teacher, like, what are some? Are there contests technology related that you can think of, or that that you could enter your kids in?
I'm probably going to need to think about this one for a second.
Go ahead, Stephen.
I'm going to go back to, I think Dean in his keynote was talking about why so many people don't blog or put out their blog posts is because they think it has to be perfect. You know, that their message has to be like the aha moment or whatever it may be. I think, you know, I remember thinking back when I was a 7th grade math teacher about, oh, you know, I should enter this, but then you look at your kids' projects and you're like, oh, I don't know if that's good enough. So I don't know if there's maybe that subconscious feeling or thinking to where my kids' projects that they submit have to be like the one or the perfect project. And I don't think that has to be the case. And so I think just maybe trying to promote that and get away from that type of thinking would maybe help people a little bit to just say, you know what, throw it out there, see what happens, let kids create and demonstrate what they can do, and well, let's go from there.
Guy Trainin from UNL, you know, asked about the importance of contests. And Lynn, I know, is in the Twitter stream. If you wanna, you can put your thoughts in too. I think it's a great way to show how people are integrating technology. I think it's a great opportunity for teachers to get a discount on coming. I think that they're, you know, it's a way for NETA to recognize some of the great things that teachers are doing. So I mean, I think there's definitely a benefit from it. I think we need to make sure, and I think that we do a pretty decent job of it, that it is flexible enough to integrate it into the instruction and not try and make it something that's extra. And I think that's kind of where it ebbs and flows a lot about, you know, what it is that, or what contests we have. So, anyone else with thoughts before Mickey talks?
I just tried to send, you know, I know as a board member I was aware of the contest, I guess, and I think as a board member I tried to send out emails not only to my staff but other teachers that I know. I guess I'm lucky enough to have teachers in my family that I can send out and say, hey, pass this on. And so I guess I tried to work really hard to get it out there. And with Northwest staff, I just kind of would send an email, find a contest, and say, hey, this looks like something that your students would be good at, or you do a lot, you know, this is something that you're passionate about, you should maybe consider entering something like this, you know. And I guess I did that with presenters too. I kind of pushed a couple staff members out of their comfort zone and said, you know, you need to present. I think you do a good job, and they were more comfortable with the poster session. So I guess it's just kind of giving, like, I don't know, was that you that said that, Josh? I'm sorry, I was kind of following the Twitter stream, but just kind of getting them out of their comfort zone, but yet encouraging them and saying, you know, you are doing great things, why not showcase that, or your students are doing those great things. And, you know, I even had an opportunity to push it to a pre-service teacher and say, this is something that you should try entering, you know, I'd like to see you at the NETA conference. And I kind of pushed her and I said, you can get a free conference registration for it. And I got a text later, and NETA was one of the best conferences she had been to. So I guess it's just kind of getting people out of their comfort zone, just making them making them aware. And, you know, I know when you send out the email, sometimes they look at it like, oh, it's another email, or, this, you know, it looks, if I'm sending it out, it looks similar to what's coming from NETA, but just that extra little word that says, I think your kids are doing great things, or you have a potential here. I don't know. That's kind of the approach that I took as a board member in the district that I work in.
Good point.
Can I just mention too? I really enjoyed, like, as a board member, like looking over those and seeing all of it, and it inspired me to do things, you know, with the kids. So I think there is a value in it for sure, in the sense of, like, I was so impressed with some of the things that the kids created and did, and then teachers like Jeff Burnett and leaders like, you know, Louis Pow, and I mean, I think that sort of thing is a great thing to recognize those things. So I think there's definitely a value in doing it.
And I guess maybe I remember the day when we actually used to honor those kids in person. And we've gone away from doing that. And I know there's pluses and minuses on both sides, but maybe that's something to look at considering again.
Yeah. And I got to shout out Lynn Herr, because she does an amazing job with organizing all of that. And just, you know, it's a load. And, you know, from being on the backside of things and seeing that, and then all the contest judging that goes on, and all the people that devote a lot of time, and even volunteers, you know, husbands and wives come of board members to spend time doing it. So it's an awesome deal. And I tried to promote it as much as I can, and I do. It's kind of back to what I said earlier about the message. I think it just, people need to talk that message and share with teachers. And like you said, Heather, they need to encourage teachers from their district, and, you know, especially instructional coaches like ourselves. And I tried to do that this year too, and get people involved.
All right, we are running short on time. I'm going to combine a couple questions. Exactly. Thanks for putting that out there. So as we talk about the move down the CenturyLink, what are you most excited about for NETA 15? And then if you're on Twitter, if you have any questions that you know, you may be rolling around in your head that you didn't have a chance to ask, you're welcome to do that. Haley, you get to start this time, and you cannot pass the torch this time. You have to say something.
Okay. So I'm kind of having mixed feelings. First, because it was a great location, and for me, first time navigating, it was very easy figuring out what rooms to go to, where it was going to be. I'm a little intimidated by having it at CenturyLink for that reason. The perks of CenturyLink, though, I was in a couple sessions that were so packed that people were sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall. There were a couple sessions where, I mean, I felt awful sitting in a chair because there were so many people packed into this room that I'm like, okay, there's people that need to be sitting in a chair instead of me. So that's one of the perks that I'm excited for about CenturyLink. I think this has been something that you guys have all shared on, and I agree with this too. The chance to, you know, interact with people when you're not in a session. I think that the area that we were in this year just provides that almost sense of community in itself. So, I don't know. I'm a little scared about how it's going to be set up at CenturyLink for that reason. Just because you can be, you know, walking down. I mean, it's very packed when people are getting out of sessions, but you can be walking down and you see someone and you're like, oh, hey, and you start up a conversation. I'm sure that'll still happen at CenturyLink. I'm nervous if it'll still have that community feel.
I'll go next on this one. Since I'm the eldest member of the panel, this will be the third location that I have attended NETA in.
Me too. That doesn't really matter.
No, that doesn't really matter. I am most looking forward to the space. The Embassy Suites was a beautiful facility, and they did a lot specifically to make our conference work well. But the minute we went out there, it was too small. So I am really looking forward to the space. You know, getting between the sessions, you know, I would have to, if I was planning on presenting, I left a session probably a half an hour early just so I would be sure that I could get across the hall to get into my room to get set up. So I'm looking forward to the extra space. One thing that I am concerned about, however, as someone who does budgeting to send people to the NETA conference, is the cost of the hotels down there. Do we have any idea? Are the costs going to be comparable, or when can we anticipate knowing the costs for the hotel rooms?
And Jim put in a question, Jim York from Thedford, who I will name drop again since he missed my first one, about lodging. I know that we're partnering with 2 hotels. There are a plethora of hotels down there, and we'll provide, I think we're going to work on a Google map of some other options. I feel like, and obviously I don't stay downtown a whole lot because I live here, but I think there are some hotels down there that are fairly comparable to what you would get at the Embassy Suite. There's not a Super 8 down there or anything like that, but I don't think it's going to be a ridiculously huge change from what it is. I do not have numbers off the top of my head. I believe that either August or September we should have the hotel information out to people.
But there will be some kind of a conference rate negotiated.
If I remember correctly, there will be with 2 hotels, and I do not know which 2 those are. Heather, what about you?
Space. I think the space is big.
Steven, what about you?
I think just being in that area down there, I think there's a lot more social places to go afterwards. After you spend a day, and if you are able to stay that night, Thursday night or whatever, so you go all day, you digest everything, and then you're able to have those conversations in the evening with other people. And I think that, to me, is so much more valuable, maybe, is those conversations of how people took information from different sessions and just kind of collaborating back and forth. And so, to me, I think that area will facilitate those conversations a little bit better.
Going off of that, Stephen, on the Twitter feed, Jenna Krambach has said kind of the same thing. She's looking for more hangout areas to network and meet like-minded people. And the ever awesome Beth Still is hoping that there will be a bloggers cafe because she knows someone who would like to run it. So, lots of shout outs for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree. Stephen, just the beauty of it being there too is that some of that stuff is walkable depending on hotel you do end up in, and that's kind of nice. Not that you can't do that at the Embassy. There's that deal across the street there, but it's somewhat dangerous, in the sense of, as a dad, I wouldn't want my kids.
4 lanes of highway.
Right, but downtown you've got a lot of options that are walkable and some great places, and that's going to be a fun thing to explore and for people just to mix it up. Anything, I think that's a good thing. Change is good. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity to kind of grow and have blogger cafes and have connection areas and different strands may be available. So it's going to be a positive thing for NETA for sure.
I want to give a quick shout out to George Kuros and Dean Sharesky for both checking in on Nebraska Ed Chat tonight, which is awesome. Dean mentioned we blew his Twitter feed up a little bit ago when they were talking about him, and George just chimed in and said looking forward to NETA next year with Adam. So, last question for the evening: what would you tell a teacher who is interested in attending NETA 15, and what are some things that they could, or advice that you could give them to convince their administrators to send them? Who wants to start? Mickey, go ahead.
Oh,
Steven, go ahead.
No, Mickey, go ahead. Since you're the oldest, not the eldest, the oldest.
Hold on, let me get this.
So that would mean that I would have the most wisdom to share with new teachers.
You'd think so.
Exactly.
Yeah, you would think so.
We'll judge that.
Interested in I tell you what, I've been to conferences all across the state. I've been to national conferences, and there honestly is not a better conference than NETA. It's well run. The sessions that are put on are excellent. It's for teachers by teachers. The keynotes that are coming in are fantastic. Honestly, outside of the ISTE conference, NETA is the best conference that I attend hands down. You will not be disappointed. There's something for everyone. How can you convince your admin? That one's a little tougher because I see that from both sides of the fence. I know, especially in the spring, it's hard to get subs, even in a district the size of Norfolk. We've got so many things going on at that time of the year. It's really hard to get subs. But I think maybe one thing that you could tell your administration is, if you let me go and do this, I will come back and do some training for the staff. I will come back with my ideas and I will share it with the staff. And that might be some incentive, especially if you're at a smaller district where you don't have a tech integration specialist. That might be a way to get your admin on board to say, hey, yeah, I'll send you, get some ideas, bring them back to our staff and see if we can't implement them here. So that would be my advice to new teachers.
Stephen, what about you?
I was just going to say, for new teachers, would be, come up, kind of what Mickey was saying, come up with a plan. Don't say, hey, gosh, I would love to go. Okay, that's awesome, but what are you going to do with it? I mean, what's your plan? When you attend, what are you going to get out of it, or what are you going to try to get out of it? And then once you get that knowledge, what are you going to do with it? And, like Mickey was saying, come back, present, share that information, because that's, I think, is very important. And so I'd say that'd be the biggest thing is if you really want to go, come up with a plan of what you're going to do, what information you're going to try to gather, and then what you're going to do with that information. And then if you are able to go, just absorb as much as you can. I mean, I think, one tip is they always say, pick out the sessions beforehand. And I tried that a couple times, and I never go to the ones that I picked out beforehand because once I get there, maybe the environment just totally changes everything. So just absorb as much as you can. Make connections.
Darren Swenson just said that he was guessing. Darren Swenson, fan of Dads and Ed, which is a podcast that Brent Catlin and I do, which will be on this Monday night. And Tony Vincent, former NETA keynoter, is going to be our guest on Monday night. I had to work that in. Darren says he thought that George was going to be keynoting because of inspiring ideas and willingness to play One Direction upon request. Not true, Darren. Actually, we're hoping that Justin Bieber can come and be give a concert after George is done. That's why we're having George come, because they're both Canadians, so they know each other. So
there, you need the rim shot there, Brent. Come on.
Sorry.
Brent, what advice do you have for people wanting to go to NETA?
I think back to the conversation we had with Dave Everson, myself, and you and Heather, and just that I'd really put it on leaders in this hangout. All of us here and all of the people in the Twitter chat tonight, those people have to be the change agents that make it happen and go and talk about the reasons why they should be. Part of the reason I think, Josh, that you invited me to the hangout tonight was the fact that Bellevue brought well over close to 20 people. I don't know the exact number, but teachers and my colleagues and I, Ann and Jenny, and I mentioned Cambridge earlier, brought their entire district. Like, it's possible. It can be done, but that has to come from people pushing them and showing them the value and why they should send their teachers, and there certainly is. But leaders like us and leaders in the Twitter chat have to be the ones that push that, because we have to show those administrators that this is worthwhile and the teachers need to be there.
I, like Darcy Lindgren, had a great suggestion. Submit a session proposal to present at NETA. If you do that and you get accepted, you get a discounted rate, so it doesn't cost as much to send you. That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I believe it's the same with contests. And Lynn, if you're still listening, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that if you win is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Or did I make that up? Okay, if you win a contest, then you get a reduced rate as well. So.
What about poster sessions? Is that the same?
Poster sessions is a presenter fee, yeah.
Okay.
And poster sessions, which I don't attend a lot, but that's a really good way if you're kind of nervous about presenting solo. Yeah. A poster session is way more laid back, and people just kind of come in and out, and you talk as they come, and so that's really a great way to get your feet wet.
And it's a great way to get ideas too. Just walking around and seeing, wow, that's a great idea of what they did in their school. Yeah, I would agree.
We had a conversation this year that those have taken off more than we ever thought they would, which is great to hear. So, Haley, as a new teacher and new attendee, what are some things that you would tell people who are interested in going?
I think for me, I was given the advice, sit down, pick out the sessions that you want to go to. And so I actually did that, and I would pick out 3 or 4 sessions every single time, and then I couldn't decide which one I wanted to go to. But, I think that was a big part. And then for me, when I was there, I felt like it was my job to absorb as much information as I could, write down as many things as I could, and be able to bring it back to my colleagues, the other teachers that weren't able to be there. And so I was jotting down things for the art teacher, things for the social studies teachers, things that I knew other teachers that weren't getting this opportunity would love to still get this information. So I felt like that was my job. And then I came back from NETA and I went, holy cow, this is awesome. How do I get to go every year? Because that's what I want to do. I want to be able to come back every single year. And so I told Dave and Patty how much I appreciated what they do for us here at COZAD. I told, a little shout out to them. I told my administrator, I told my administrator, thank you so much for sending me. And I said, this is what I got out of it. And I, even said to our superintendent and our school board, I said, this is amazing. I went there and the information that I got, the people that I met, it seriously was 2 days that I could repeat all the time. It was amazing. So I think, for people that are, first year thinking about going for the first time, and I say me too included now because I've been once, but just tell everybody about it and share our experiences and, like you guys said, start from the top up and really get, people involved and understanding how much this can, truly change educators.
Absolutely. Heather, take your piece back in.
I'm back in. I don't know, are you putting me on the spot?
Yeah, we are.
You'll have to repeat where you're at. What are you at right now?
What do you tell a teacher who's interested in attending NETA 15 or wondering about it? Or how do they convince their administrators?
I would say, like I think it was mentioned before, feel free to enter a contest. New teachers, same way, just enter a contest. Poster sessions, Mickey said, that's a great way to start. Otherwise, just have them talk to another administrator or talk to someone that has been if they have a doubt, and just offer suggestions for developing a plan, because I think sometimes they want justification. I know saying you'll come back and present is great, but then they feel like they've started something, so how do they continue it? So offer that support to help and decide, okay, if we send 5 people this year, we can send 5 the next year. And pretty soon what will happen is 5 that went one year that maybe are on an off year might say, you know what, I really want to go, so I'll put in a session proposal so that I can go. And I've had that conversation with staff members before. So just getting people started and going and having them come back and share, and then just kind of working with your leadership teams to come up with a plan as far as how you can continue to keep people going and coming back and sharing.
I wonder if there's a way, sorry, this is just a thought, but having like ambassadors and people that really try to do a job of promoting that. Like if there are leaders out there that are bringing their entire staffs or that sort of thing, just a thought, random thought, but maybe in the realm of really trying to promote with others that haven't brought that many staff members or don't know about it. But some of those that we know have been doing a good job, maybe those are people we reach out to. And I always think video. I love to make video, and like the great video that was put on by those kids. I forget. Help me out with for the NETA 15.
Louisville, yeah.
I mean, stuff like that to be able to show someone and say like, hey, this is why. And like Haley's a prime example of her testimonial just a minute ago. If I was an administrator, would have sold me. If I was a clueless administrator, I should say. I'm not saying there are any out there in Nebraska, but that sort of stuff in video form would be great.
Well, and the students from Louisville that you mentioned are working on a marketing one. They did some recording at NETA 14, and so hopefully we'll have that out soon. So with that, Brent, Haley, Heather, Mickey, Stephen, thank you so much for taking time out of your guys' nights to be here for this live Nebraska Ed Chat. Those of you that were in the Twitter stream, very much appreciate all of your contributions. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I will be tweeting out the link to this, and I know Cynthia Stogdill is going to be doing some storifying and archiving of the tweets. So thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. You guys
Thank
are
you.
awesome.